envy, if that joy does die, to thy sorrow thou shalt find all that's generous, all that's kind, friendship, virtue, every grace, dwelling in this happy place. Welcome to the Director's Room here at Wellwood, the home of Irvine Burns Club. As President of Irvine Burns Club, we are delighted to be invited to take part in your celebrations, and I bring warm wishes of health and happiness from the directors and members of Irvine Burns Club. Among the many initiatives that I faced in my early days as President were attending various local events including Burns Nights in Coinning and at Irvine Lassies. But keeping alive the recent links with our friends in Guelph, Ontario was a different challenge that I was pleased to take up. Completely on my own and in an almost deserted high street, I was honoured to lay a birthday wreath at John Galt's birthplace on the 3rd of May, before heading out to the Burns statue in Irvine Moor to record a message that was sent to Cam Guthrie, the Mayor of Guelph, to keep alive our links with the Canadian city that Galt founded in 1827. To all my friends who say I have not aged from that video, I thank you. And to the others, well, you will still be my friends. It is important in these challenging times to keep up traditions, build new ones, and give our young people hope and inspiration. And that is my theme. I have been given the honour of being asked to serve a second year as president of this great club, and I hope in the not too distant future we can meet again in harmony in Guelph or here in Irvine, the birthplace of our first honorary member, John Galt.
For Robert Burns, the year he spent in Irvine was an important era when he learned something of town life. Burns and John Galt both lived in Irvine in 1781, Burns being a 22-year-old apprentice flax dresser and Galt a child aged 2. At that time, with a population of over 4,000, Irvine was the largest town in Ayrshire. The harbour and the sea linked many families. John Galt's father was a captain involved in the West Indies trade, and John was a first cousin of Captain Alexander Allen, founder of the Allen Line. He was also a friend of Henry Eckford, later a noted naval architect and shipbuilder in the USA. Along the street from where the Galts lived was the unusual home, resembling an upturned keel, of their relation, the shipbuilder David Gilkison. All 5 Gilkison sons became captains. One, William, would establish in 1832 the town of Elora in Ontario. Another, Robert, went to sea at age 14 on a ship captained by Richard Brown, and later married the captain's daughter Eleanora. More about Richard Brown shortly. At Irvine firesides, many tales would be told of trade with the West Indies and with Bombay, and of pirates and privateers, although the ships themselves would dock at Greenock or Port Glasgow. Irvine Harbour is formed by the rivers Irvine and Garnock as they meet the sea. The first stone quays were built a century before Galt and Burns, as Irvine struggled to maintain trade with France, Norway and Ireland, and handle goods for Glasgow. In the 1770s, however, Glasgow trebled the depth of the Clyde, and ships became larger, and Irvine soon lost its prominence. The rubble-stone jetties of the 1830s helped maintain a channel at the harbour bar, but from the early 1800s, the few ships registered at Irvine sailed from other ports. In 1781, Robert Burns struck up a friendship with Captain Richard Brown, a single man who, like Burns, had enjoyed a good education. Picture them at the harbour side, sitting along from Captain Gilkison's shipyard, their conversation including Richard's recent misfortunes at the hands of an American privateer. Burns later recalled that on a walk in the local countryside at Eglinton Woods, the captain urged Burns to publish his work. "You wondered," he wrote, "that I could resist the temptation of sending verses of such merit to a magazine. 'Twas actually this which encouraged me to endeavour at the character of a poet." In later years, exports from Irvine Harbour were mainly of coal, 3,000 tonnes a week at one time. And when chemical and glass factories were built, many raw materials arrived by sea. The harbour area was full of life, but the only events that attracted visitors were the occasional shipyard launchings, such as the Lalandia in 1914. By the mid-20th century, the harbour side had little attraction, either for residents or for tourists. Irvine Harbourside is now a popular tourist location, thanks to the Development Corporation of Irvine Newtown Days, North Ayrshire Council, the Scottish Maritime Museum, occasional special events, and the busy coffee shops, cafes and restaurants. Also, in 2012, the legacy of Robert Burns' friendship with Captain Brown prompted Irvine Burns Club to lead a 5-year project featuring blue plaques for key figures of the past, sculpted pavement stones with Scots words familiar to past residents, a website hosting pictures and research resources, and summertime walking tours led by the Irvine Lassies Burns Club. The heritage of Irvine Harbour encompasses the world view of its shipping families, the cultural links with Scotland's most famous poet, and the leisure activities of the present day. Robert Burns' contact with Richard Brown encouraged him to publish his works, so we can celebrate that the apprentice flax-dresser left Irvine in 1782 as an apprentice poet. 4 years later, in 1786, Burns published his first Kilmarnock edition, this manuscript being one of those prepared by the poet for the printer.
I'm standing outside the Wellwood Burns Centre and Museum, the home of Irvine Burns Club. This building was bequeathed to the club in 1962 by the Patterson family. It has been called the hidden gem of the Burns world. So open the door, step inside and enjoy the wonderful treasures in this building.
We have just seen some of the wonderful treasures in Wellwood. Now we will introduce you to a recent acquisition. You may know that John Murdoch, the teacher, had introduced Burns to a wide range of literature. So it is no surprise that in Irvine, Burns gravitated to the bookshop of William Templeton, who encouraged him to browse freely among the books and periodicals and popular ballads. And it was in Irvine that Burns read the salacious novel Pamela, a bestseller of its time. Local tradition has it that Robert would perch on the counter and read aloud anything new that he enjoyed. But Burns's most exciting discovery at Templeton's bookshop was the work of Robert Fergusson, a young Edinburgh poet. Burns thought he finished with poetry, but after reading Fergusson's Scottish poems, he wrote, "I strung anew my wildly sounding rustic lyre with emulating vigour." Fergusson had died young a few years earlier, and Burns decided to pay for a headstone at his grave. Research shows that Burns drew on many of Fergusson's themes and ideas, and one authority has recently stated, "It would be fair to say that without Robert Fergusson, there would have been no Robert Burns." Robert's conversations with the bookseller often led to him sitting in the back shop, on a chair which the Templeton family then kept safe for many years, and even took with them to Australia in 1909, and donated to Irvine Burns Club in 2015. The chair is now back on display in its hometown. The family have attested that this was the chair that Burns always used to sit in, and many a good laugh and a joke he had in it. It was a favourite seat of the poet. The influences of Captain Richard Browne, of William Templeton, and of Robert Fergusson are remembered in Irvine, the town which celebrates the awakening of the published poet.
Welcome to Glasgow-Venno in Irvine 2021. In the 18th century, this road would have been quite different from what it is today, as it was the main route between Irvine and Glasgow. At that time, Irvine was the largest port on the west coast of Scotland, and goods would be taken by horse and cart from Irvine to Glasgow and beyond. The Venno is now part of Irvine Burns Heritage Trail. It was here in 1781 that a 22-year-old Robert Burns came to learn the flax trade. Flax was used to make linen. Burns and his brother Gilbert grew flax on their farm, but wanted to increase their income by taking flax to the next stage. Robert Burns lodged in this house in Glasgow-Venno while learning the skill of flax dressing in the heckling shop. Unfortunately, Burns' employment there ended at a Hogmanay party when a candle was knocked over and the subsequent fire left the heckling shop a shell of a building. In Glasgow-Venno, we also find the house of Mrs. Elspeth Buchan, the leader of a group of religious fanatics. One of their beliefs was that they could be translated to heaven without death. Both Burns and Galt knew of the Buchanites, and both recorded their views on them. Galt remembers, at the age of 4, being part of a group of children following the Buchanites as they were expelled from Irvine. Whilst in Irvine, Robert Burns would have attended Irvine Old Parish Church. The Reverend James Richmond was minister of the kirk at that time, and it is believed he gave Burns his first communion. In 1996, the bicentenary of the poet's death, Irvine Burns Club donated a commemorative stained glass window to the church. The window features a tree growing beside a stream, celebrating Burns' love of nature. Wellwood Burns Centre and Museum is the home of Irvine Burns Club, founded in 1826. The Wellwood virtual tour gives you just a glimpse of its wonderful treasures. Throughout the year, the club hosts various events at Wellwood, such as the club's annual verse speaking competition. There are also primary school visits and the annual visit of the Queen and her Marys, schoolgirls who take part in the town's annual Merrimas Festival. There is a close association with Irvine Lassies Burns Club, who hold their meetings in Wellwood. The only statue of Robert Burns in North Ayrshire can be found on Irvine Moor, with Burns facing south towards Alloway, his birthplace. The statue was gifted to the town by John Spears, a wealthy insurance broker. The sculptor was James Pittendree McGilvery, and it was unveiled in 1896, when thousands of people are understood to have attended the event. In January each year, Irvine Burns Club invites representatives of North Ayrshire Council, other North Ayrshire Burns Clubs and local secondary schools to attend a wreath laying at the statue. As part of the Harbourside Heritage Project, completed in 2017, Irvine Burns Club created a heritage trail of the harbour area. Blue plaques on the harbourside buildings commemorate individuals associated with the harbour, and many of them have a Burns connection. One of the plaques commemorates Burns' great friend, Captain Richard Brown. Irvine Lassies Burns Club now offer visitors guided walks off the trail. Another plaque is dedicated to David Gilkison, a partner in a small shipbuilding company in Irvine. His seafaring son William founded the town of Elora in Canada in 1832. The town was originally called the Irvine Settlement, but William changed it to Elora, the name of his youngest brother's ship. Irvine Creek flows nearby. David Gilkison was the uncle of John Galt, novelist, entrepreneur and founder of Guelph and Goderich. Born in Irvine on 2nd May 1779, Galt was the first honorary member of Irvine Burns Club, and his acceptance letter of honorary membership was written from Guelph. Each year on 2nd May, Irvine Burns Club is joined by the Provost, other Burns clubs and representatives of the John Galt Society at a wreath-laying ceremony on the site of Galt's birthplace. In 2018, the club was delighted to welcome visitors from Guelph. There is much that links Irvine, Burns, Galt and Canada. One such link is in Guelph, where the great-granddaughter of Robert Burns is buried. Isabella Ferguson Brown was born in Scotland, but died in Canada at the age of 10. Irvine Old Parish Church's connection to Burns has already been mentioned, but there are connections between Burns, Guelph and the Old Parish graveyard. There you can see the grave of David Sillars, Burns' Dainty Davy, and the first Vice President of Irvine Burns Club. Another headstone found in the graveyard is to the memory of Helen Miller, one of the Bells of Mauchline, a friend of Jean Armour's and the wife of Dr. John Mackenzie, the first President of Irvine Burns Club. David and Mary Gilkison, William Gilkison's parents, are also buried in the graveyard, as is Jeanie Spurling, John Galt's young cousin. Whilst in Guelph, Galt corresponded regularly with his cousin, and the University of Guelph holds 4 letters written by Galt to Jeanie. You may not have heard of Flora Macmillan, but, in a way, she has links with John Galt and Robert Burns. She was buried in the graveyard in 1941. She was the grand-niece of John Galt and the niece of John Spears, the man who gifted the Burns statue that stands on Irvine Moor. They do say it's a small world.
Club. Hello, I'm David Burns, President of Irvine Burns Club, that has annually celebrated the birth of Robert Burns since the club was formed in 1826. Sadly, there will be no annual celebration this year, as we are in lockdown fighting against the COVID-19 pandemic. But despite that, we wanted to mark Burns' Day, so we invite you to join us in our version of what is at the very heart of every Burns supper, which is simply Burns addressed to a haggis. And don't forget to toast a haggis at the end with a wee dram. So let's start with the haggis. Fair for your honest sonsy face, great chieftain of the pudding race. Aboon them all ye take your place, painch, tripe or thorn. Wheeler ye worthy o' a grace, as lang as my arm.
The groaning trencher there ye fill, your hurdies, like a distant hill, your peen would help to mend a mill in time of need, whilst through your pores the dews distill, like amber bead.
His knife, see rustic labour dicht, and cuts ye up where ready's left, trenching your gushing entrails bricht, a coney ditch, and then, oh, what a glorious sight, one reeking rich.
Then horn for horn they stretch and strive, deal to the hinmost on they drive, till all their wheel swelt kites belive are bent like drums, and all good man maist light derive, they thank it comes.
Is there that o'er his French ragout, or olio that would staw a sou, or fricassee that would whack a spew wi' perfect scunner, looks down wi' sneer and scorn for view on second.
Poor devil, see him o'er his trash, as feckless as a withered rash, his spinel shank a good whiplash, his knee a knit, through bloody flood or field to dash, oh how unfit.
But, mark the rustic, haggis fed, the trembling earth resounds his tread, clapped in his wally knee a blade, he'll mak it whistle, in legs, in arms, in heeds, he'll sned like taps the thistle.
He purrs wha mak mankind your care, and dish them out their bill of fare. All Scotland wants nae skinking weir that joups in luggies. But if ye wish her grateful prayer, gie her a haggis.
The haggis.
Best wishes and fraternal greetings from Irvine in Scotland. We are fortunate to have had Robert Burns and John Galt, two of the most famous people in literature and poetry, to have lived in our town over 200 years ago. The Burns Club in Irvine has maintained the links of both with Guelph, but there has been minimal contact by our local authority. I believe the time has come to put that right. Irvine would like to contact Guelph again. Thank you.